Good evening, YouTubers. Dave here from Funky Sloth Comic and Collectibles, and today is Friday, April 16th, 2021. I hope everyone is staying safe and doing well. Uh, I missed Sunday's video. My weekly movie and TV talk had a little couple things come up. And as usual, my little weekly weather report here from Vermont. It snowed. We got about a foot of heavy, wet snow. Lost power for a little while, but hey, we get that in Vermont. We lose power where I live. We lose power quite a bit. It's ridiculous how much we lose power here. But anyways, being today is a Friday. It's the second Friday. I am going to do my bi-weekly, I should say, top 16 list. And my top 16 list for today is war movies. My top 16 war movies of all time. This list was very, very, very hard for me, as I love war movies and I love the military in general as a whole. A lot of great movies were left off this list, and people are going to be like, how did you leave that one off? But I could easily done a top 50 on this, but I'm only doing my top 16 like you've seen all these other times. But yeah, some of the ones that were left off: From Here to Eternity, Guns of Navarro, Major Dundee, The Deer Hunter, The Gallant Hours. There's just a ton of movies I had to leave off to get to my top 16. And I kind of cheated. I did 4 honorables. So here we go. First honorable mention, Great Escape, which premiered in 1963. Great movie. Hacksaw Ridge from 2016. Great movie. Very, very violent. Great movie. We Were Soldiers, which premiered in 2002. Another great movie. That's one of Mel Gibson's best movies, in my opinion. And the last honorable mention will be Kelly's Heroes, which premiered in 1970. And it had a ton of people in it. Clint Eastwood, Telly Savalas, Don Rickles, Carol O'Connor. Just a boatload of people in that movie. Same as Great Escape. That had a ton of people in it, too. But anyways, let's get into my top 16. So number 16 is Dirty Dozen. Dirty Dozen, Lee Marvin, Clint Walker. Just a ton of people in that movie. Great movie about a bunch of convicts that are given a chance to get out of jail. Military prison. If they complete the mission, their sentences are commuted and they're free. But they have to complete the mission. You have so many different types of characters in this movie. The crazy guys, the dead serious guys, the guys that just wanted to get out of the military and did some things that they regret. But Charles Bronson was in this. Lee Marvin served in the Marine Corps. You could see that he had the military background when he was doing this movie. Great movie. Again, that's from 1967. Number 15, 12 O'Clock High, which premiered in 1949 and starred the great Gregory Peck. Gregory Peck would easily be in my top 25 actors of all time. That list is coming up down the road, my top 25 actors and actresses. But it's about an American Army Air Group and World War II bomber group that is plagued with low morale. And it's coming from poor leadership, watching their planes just get shot down left and right over Germany. And they were. During the beginning of World War II, the rate of bombers and bomber crews that were not coming back from the missions was, unbelievable. The amount of bomber crews that were not making it back. To make it to 25 missions was not heard of very often. But, Gregory Peck's general, General Frank Savage, comes in, takes it over with just strict discipline. And this is the way things are going to go. And if you don't like it, you're going to get court-martialed and you'll be going to military prison. That's what the military is about, is discipline. I don't know about nowadays. It seems like the military is getting to be all this SJW crap as well. But, in the military, it's not a democracy. It's this way or the highway. And usually the highway ends up being court-martial or military prison. A lot of the people in this day and age need to realize that. But anyways, number 14, Pork Chop Hill. Again, Gregory Peck. Premiered in 1959. About near the end of the Korean War, fighting over Pork Chop Hill. One of these political battles that didn't need to happen, as this hill has been fought over numerous times, given up, fight to get it back. And all the while is the backstory of this movie is while the American soldiers are trying to take the hill and then defend the hill, you can see the American military and the North Korean military and Chinese sitting at a diplomatic table discussing the war and how this hill was a pawn in their talks. People got to understand most wars are all political bullshit. The people in charge could really care less about the people that are actually doing the fighting. The politicians, they don't care. Anyways, that brings us to number 13, Sands of Iwo Jima, which premiered in 1949, starring John Wayne. This takes place in a few battles prior to Iwo Jima, most notably Tarawa. And this is John Wayne's character, which is Sergeant Stryker, who is a tough-ass Marine. And there's a reason for him being like that, and the reason he treats his Marines the way he does, because he's sick of seeing them dying, and he wants the war to end. Then he has his family issues in the background. But John Wayne actually played a phenomenal Marine in this movie. He played a phenomenal, by-the-book, pure discipline, it's my way or the highway sergeant in World War II. He was phenomenal in that role. And all the other actors were great in it. And the Battle of Mount Suribachi was, the Battle of Iwo Jima as a whole was a big turning point. That was the end of the Japanese, pretty much, Iwo Jima. Even though Okinawa came, but Iwo Jima, they knew it. If you ever get a chance to visit Iwo Jima, which I had a chance when I was in the Marines, do it. And it is a very haunting feeling. All those old World War II battle places are very haunting feeling. So, brings me to number 12, Zulu, which premiered in 1964, starring Michael Caine and Stanley Baker. It is a retelling of the British Army outpost at Rorke's Ridge in 1879. It's a battle between the British and the Welsh soldiers fighting the Zulu warriors. The British completely underestimated the Zulus in that war. The Zulus were on home territory. They were not going to have the British there. Great movie, great visuals, great acting, great military strategy being shown in a movie on how to defend yourself if you're a besieged unit. Great cinematography. But a lot of people find this movie now racist, which a lot of people in this day and age find anything and everything you talk about racist. Number 10, which people are going to think I'm kind of weird on this one because it's this low on the list, but it's Apocalypse Now. Which premiered in 1979, starring Martin Sheen, Robert Duvall, Marlon Brando, a young Harrison Ford, a young Lawrence Fishburne. It's a very subversive look on the Vietnam War. It really tells the war within each soldier and what war will do to a human mind. The acting is great. For the most part, the story is good. Marlon Brando was awesome, as was Martin Sheen. Great soundtrack. The movie score, not the soundtrack, but the movie score is awesome. The sets are beautiful. Cinematography, again, is awesome. And it gives you one of the classic movie lines of all time. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Great movie. Really, it's really good. But it only made number 10. So, number 9 is MASH, which appeared in 1970, starring Donald Sutherland, Elliot Gould, and a lot of other Sally Studham. Man, I can't remember her name now. Anyways, this movie again was very subversive, bold, and so funny on how they made fun of the military. Because when you're in the military, you make fun of the military. That's part of being in the military. Part of the military is making fun of other branches. As a Marine, we made fun of everybody. Everybody, you name it. If you were in the Air Force, we felt bad for you because I won't even say it because I'll get in trouble for it. But if Navy, we always said the Marines were the men's department of the Navy. Army stands for ain't ready to be Marines yet. Coast Guard is Coast Guard, but Air Force, we were just like, it's the women's department. But anyways, uh, but they also took things very seriously when they had to in the movie. Fun fact: Gary Berghoff was the only person in the movie that actually went on to star in the TV show. But MASH is a great movie, and the TV series was excellent. I have MASH the movie and the TV series on Blu-ray, and I'm trying to get them on 4K. Brings us to number 8, which is Savior, which premiered in 1998, starring Dennis Quaid. It's about the war in Bosnia in Europe. He saw things that made him become a mercenary, and the story was good, but the brutality of ethnic cleansing. That's pretty much what this movie was about, was the ethnic cleansing that was going on in that war. It was crazy. What they did to people. But that's war. War brings out the dirtiest, most vile horror of humans. That's what it does. The stuff that the humans can do to other humans is mind-boggling. It doesn't surprise me, but it's mind-boggling. You can just look at all wars and see stuff that happened between the different factions that the Americans are just as guilty as that as anybody else. But Savior, if you have not seen it, it's not a very popular movie, but if you get a chance to see Savior from 1998, I highly recommend it. Great, underrated movie. Number 7, Glory, which premiered in 1989, starring Matthew Broderick, Carrie Elwes, Morgan Freeman, Denzel Washington. A movie follows Colonel Robert Shaw, who's Matthew Broderick's character. He's the commander of the first all African American regiment called the 54th Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry. They were the first all black, all African American infantry unit in the Civil War. And this regiment went on to earn a ton of battlefield awards. You have Carrie Elwes playing Cabot Forbes, who's one of his junior officer. But the story really goes with Matthew Broderick's character, which is Robert Shaw. The tormenting he took from fellow Union officers who didn't believe the African Americans could fight or shouldn't fight. But the unit he ended up making stand was awesome. You had Denzel Washington in the movie as an escaped slave. You had Morgan Freeman's as John Rollins, who is a former gravedigger, but he ends up being the sergeant major. And Denzel and Morgan Freeman were awesome in this movie, as was the rest of the cast. When this regiment was first formed, they were limited to just menial tasks, little things. They were almost being treated like they were slaves in the army. But they ended up going on and fighting some huge battles in the Civil War. Great acting, great action, great production. The final battle is phenomenal. This is all based on true facts. But Glory is a phenomenal movie. Watch it if you haven't. Number 6, Full Metal Jacket, which premiered in 1987, starring Arlie Ermy, Matthew Modine, and Vincent D'Onofrio. Takes place in the middle of the Vietnam War, and it starts out in my birthplace, Parris Island, South Carolina, which is the home of Marine Corps boot camp east of the Mississippi. The portrayal of the Marine Corps boot camp is pretty much spot on. Arlie Ermy as Senior Drill Instructor Gunnery Sergeant Hartman was phenomenal. What goes on in boot camp was phenomenal. That was back in the day when there was very few reins put on the drill instructors. Even when I went through in '86, a lot of the stuff that went on in the movie was going on. They say they didn't hit you, but they did. I don't even think they can even hardly probably swear at you now because of all the SJW bullshit that these people put into the military now. But the boot camp was awesome. They got to Vietnam, and that really showed the darker side of Vietnam as well. Great soundtrack, a phenomenal soundtrack. But the action is great. The story was great. The scope, how they show the battles in Vietnam, especially the battle in the cities, was great. But yeah, Full Metal Jacket, number 6. Number 5, Black Hawk Down, which premiered in 2001, starring Josh Hart, Ewan McGregor, Eric Bana, Tom Sizemore, and so many more. Another movie. Ton of actors. And this is about the U.S. involvement in Somalia, and specifically Mogadishu. And it's the Army soldiers and Special Forces. Follows the the Black Hawk Down incident, which everybody's familiar with, but it really gets into what was going on in the battles itself. How the 2 Army Green Berets won the Medal of Honor for what they did fighting to get out of a city with thousands and thousands of people after you. Was great. I mean, they definitely put the spin on it in there that, should we have been there? We shouldn't have. That was one of those things that we should have just left alone. These people could care less about help, and why help them if they could care less? And we shouldn't have been there, but I'm not going to get into the politics of stuff. But yeah, number 5, Black Hawk Down from 2001. Number 4, I can remember watching this with my grandfather on a rerun, Patton, which aired in 1970, starring George C. Scott as the genius, cocky, arrogant American General George Patton during World War II. His brilliant leadership of the troops is second to none. He will always go down one of the best American generals ever. His distrust of the Russians during World War II, and he said that, when the war ended, the United States and the European countries should have just fought the Russians back to their border. His strict discipline of his troops, leading up to where he slapped a soldier in Italy, and he got demoted and kicked off his command for that. His missteps along the way, but he was brilliant. As a general, this man was brilliant. As a fighter, brilliant. His biggest downfall was his missteps and distrust of the American political machine of World War II. But George C. Scott was perfect as Patton. Matter of fact, he won the Best Actor award, but declined the award for reasons about the Oscars and how they nominate and all that stuff. But yeah, number 4, Patton, phenomenal movie. Number 3 is Sergeant York, which premiered in 1941, starring the great Gary Cooper. It's the telling of the story of Alvin York, a conscientious objector of the war, World War One. But he goes through his stuff and he learns. He's able to fight for what he believed was right, not what the the military saying was right, but what he believed was right. And he ended up being one of the most decorated soldiers of World War One. The man received the Medal of Honor for leading an attack on a German machine gun nest along one of the no man lands lines. He knocked out 35 machine guns, killing, I think it was like 25, 30 German soldiers, and captured like 132 soldiers. And he got the Medal of Honor from us. He got France's highest award. I can't remember what that one's called, but he earned a ton of awards. But the movie is all about him coming to grips with, okay, I'm going to fight, but I'm not fighting for specifically the American government. I'm fighting for what I believe in and then fighting for my guys. But it's a great movie. Number 2, Platoon, which premiered in 1986, starring Charlie Sheen, Tom Berenger, Willem Dafoe, and again, a great cast other than the guys. Phenomenal cast. And it's all about Charlie Sheen's guy, a new guy, being caught up between two outlooks on the war. You're either gung-ho for it, or you're going with emotions, trying to stay alive. And how each group treats each other's group. And it dives into the brutality of the war and how each human, every human, is capable of very disturbing things, especially during war. Again, great story, production, the way things are filmed during the battle scenes in the jungle, and the story between Charlie Sheen, Tom Berenger, and Willem Dafoe's characters. Great. Willem Dafoe was great. Tom Berenger was actually scary kind of dude in this movie. I love Tom Berenger. But yeah, number 2, Platoon from 1986. I imagine everybody's seen it by now, but it's one of the best war movies of all time. Which brings us to number 1, Saving Private Ryan, which premiered in 1998, starring Tom Hanks, Tom Sizemore, Matt Damon, Ed Burns, and again, another list of secondary characters that were unbelievable. The first 20 minutes of this movie pins you to the seat as you see them doing the initial assault on Normandy Beach. I still believe that this first 20 minutes of the movie could easily be one of the best first 20 minutes of any film in movie history. This had your butt puckered on how these guys had to get off these landing craft and assault a beach. Not an easy task. We trained for it in the Marine Corps, and it's not an easy task. I mean, this movie had no holds barred take on what happens to the human body when it's struck by bullets, shell fragments, mortar rounds. What happens when a soldier falls off a landing craft with 60, 70 pounds of gear on his back into the water. A lot of these guys drown before they even step foot on the sand. The brutality of hand-to-hand combat. What soldiers will do in the heat of battle. You never know what the human mind will have you do. Also shows that training does work, as in the heat of the battle and the shit hits the fan, training takes over, and it shows that it works. The acting was superb. The cinematography was new and awesome. How they did that, it was like you were there assaulting the beach. It was awesome. The story was great, and this is easily one of my top movies of any genre. So there you go, folks. That's my top 16 war movies of all time. I hope you enjoyed it. Please, if you like it, hit the like button, subscribe, share. My next video will be Sunday for my movie TV talk. And then next Friday's another comic and collecting video. Also check out the new channel, which is Funky Foods with Funky Sloth, where we do we taste test stuff, hot, spicy, sour, weird foods, that sort of stuff. But please hit the like button. I will see you guys next Friday on this channel. Everybody take care of themselves, stay safe, and I will see you next Friday. Have a good night.